and get started. So welcome to another CybHER Conversation. We are so excited to have you all with us today. This week we are featuring Matt Paulson from here in Sioux Falls in the great state of South Dakota. So we are glad, since CybHER is a South Dakota university, to have somebody here relatively local joining us. So today, just for some quick reminders, if you have a question that you would like to ask, you can ask that through the Q&A, but without further ado, I am going to hand it off to Matt.
Thank you, Katie, for having me on. It's always fun to chat with some high school and college students, and I guess I'm 34 right now, so I'm probably 15 years removed from high school graduation now, but it is amazing how that time goes by and you still feel young, even though maybe you're not so young anymore. But I run a financial media company. It's called MarketBeat, and what we do is we publish news and information about the stock market, and there is a ton of technology underneath that in terms of delivering 100 million emails a month to running a website that gets 500,000 visits a day. There's just a lot of underlying tech behind that's kind of interesting. I do want to start probably in kind of my college career. Graduated from high school, entered DSU as a freshman in 2004 with a computer science degree, and had some really great opportunities through DSU. A couple that come to mind was I got a tech fellowship to do work with the College of Business and Information Systems at the time and the library. So I did some programming work for the library and made some neat databases for people to search, and then did some projects for DSU, including like a news website that they were using instead of emailing everybody all the time for a while, and that was kind of fun. And then some of the professors started a tech company there that was kind of an agency of sorts doing software development work. That was Tom Helverson, Josh Pauly, Wayne Pauly at the time. So I worked for those guys for a couple of years writing code, and DSU was able, I was able to get an internship with the State Unified Judicial System, doing kind of IT legwork. From DSU, so DSU just made a lot of great opportunities. Graduated from DSU with an undergrad in May of 2008, and then I stuck around and started the Master's of Science in Information Systems program right away, and then I finished that the following fall. So it was fall of 2009 when I kind of graduated second time from DSU, and at that time I had a job doing web programming work for a company called Factor 360 out of Pierre, South Dakota. So I was kind of a remote employee before anybody was a remote employee, doing kind of web programming work with ASP.NET and C# and SQL Server, just for any client that wanted to hire us back in the day. Going back, it would have been fall of 2006. It was around Christmas break that year that I thought, hey, there's not a lot of great opportunities for jobs in Madison, South Dakota as a student. I had a tech fellowship, but beyond that, my options were working at McDonald's or working at Sunshine, and I wanted to do something else. So I started doing some freelance writing online. That paid pretty well. I was making $1,000, $2,000 a month for that. That turned into a personal finance blog that was called American Consumer News. So 2007, 2008, 2009, I kind of ran that. It was a WordPress blog. Not a lot of tech going into that, or at least not a lot of unique tech. Kind of around 2009, 2010, that business started to change in terms. Google started sending less traffic to personal finance sites like mine, but I also realized that the investing content on my personal finance blog was doing really well. And digging into it using Google Analytics, I kind of figured out that a lot of that traffic was coming from the finance tab on Google. So I realized that if I wrote about stocks and investments, Google would pick them up on their finance tab and send a lot of traffic. And this is also kind of during the height of the Great Recession. So everybody's wondering if Citibank and Wells Fargo and Bank of America were all going to go out of business. So we could write a story about Citibank and have 5,000 people read it within the next 24 hours. So that was really fun, kind of a way to hack Google traffic for a while, and that worked. And that's kind of led to a pivot towards investing, which led to the creation of a different brand called American Banking and Market News, saying, okay, the personal finance stuff isn't working so well, but clearly there's an opportunity with investing. whenever the market's really shaken up like it is now, people pay attention to the stock market. They read a bunch of online news, and that was only good for me and people like me. So we ran the website called American Banking and Market News for a while. It did pretty well, but I knew that it wasn't going to last that way forever. These things kind of go in waves, and if you want something that can be more sustainable, you need a product to sell. You need customers. You can't just have a website that's got advertisements on it, and that led to kind of the creation of the MarketBeat brand. And I thought, okay, what if we kind of have an opportunity where yes, we get website traffic from Google, but how do we keep those people stuck around? So I thought, we could do kind of a freemium investment research offering. So we have a newsletter that we publish for free, and then we sell subscription investing research software on top of that for either $20 or $40 a month. So people can either pay us nothing and kind of be a prospective customer, but that's okay because we still have them kind of in our universe, and it doesn't matter if Google sends that person back to us in the future, because we can always email them and say, hey, come check out this new thing at MarketBeat, and then kind of really build that customer base from there on. So MarketBeat kind of became its own thing in 2011. In 2015, we actually got the MarketBeat name. We used the American Banking and Market News name before that, and it's continued to grow and evolve. And from there, I think I want to just show you guys a couple features on the website that we built out that we're pretty proud of, so you can see some of the tech. So I'm going to share my screen now. I've got a million tabs open like everybody else does, but this is the MarketBeat homepage. So this is what people see when they first come to MarketBeat. And one of the main tools that people use on MarketBeat is what we call My MarketBeat, but this is a way for people to keep track of their investment portfolios. So you can see all of the holdings in the sample portfolio here. And you can see some really interesting metrics. You can say, okay, what is the breakdown of my investments? Where is my money actually at underneath all these different investments? What is my return on investment? What are my biggest portfolio holdings? If this wants to load, it will show, how has my stocks done compared to, say, the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the S&P 500. You can see lots of interesting, just, how does my portfolio compare to the average MarketBeat user? And, people have found these things really valuable. You can also, we also do a ton of news. So we can say, okay, I follow Bitcoin. Here's all the latest Bitcoin news. We kind of have a calendar feature. So we can say, when am I going to get my next dividend payment? Or when is a company that I own going to have their next investor call, stuff like that. You can view all of the recent SEC filings for your investments. And this is a tool that a ton of people use all day, every day. And it's got a lot of interesting information on it. But you can see here, we've just built out a ton of different tools and reports. We publish a lot of content. And one type of content that we produce that's really interesting is content that's completely automated. So there are certain types of financial content that are very cookie cutter that don't need a human to write them. So we have developed technology called natural language generation technology. We were the first company to adopt this in 2011. The Associated Press started using it in 2013. So we were kind of a little bit ahead of the game there. But we have articles on our websites that are completely written by an algorithm here. So you can kind of see how this might be a cookie cutter article. So it's, this company was upgraded by this research firm. This was the old rating. This is the new rating. This is their price target on the stock. And then here's kind of their quote. And then here's what all the other analysts are saying. Here's how the stock did today. Here's how the stock's earnings was. Here's some insider buying and selling activity. And, we end up with a 1,000-word article that, nobody ever had to write. And that's been a huge advantage for us over the years. Because for a long time, Google, in Google's finance tab, we could publish these articles in there and have the article cost of $0.00. And at one point, we were getting about 30% of the traffic that Google Finance was sending to publishers. So that was a really interesting way to corner that market. There's obviously a ton of other technology or a ton of other stuff on here. We built our own ad serving system. We built some interesting visualizations so we can say, okay, how are different aspects of the stock market doing today? So you can see finance, like life insurance is not doing so hot. Banks aren't doing so hot, but tech companies, are doing okay. Today's really a mixed bag. Sometimes it's all green, sometimes it's all red, and we built some stuff like that. I think that's probably about all I have to show off today, but there's a ton of MarketBeat we've built out, and we've reached a lot of scale. We send out over 100 million emails every month. We've got about 1.5 million subscribers, about 500,000 people on our website every day. We'll probably do about 10 million in revenue this year. So we've gone from just me working in my basement or my college dorm room. Now we have 8 employees. We'll be hiring a 9th pretty soon, and it's just become a great business. And really it all started with kind of the tech foundation I picked up at DSU. I really was really attracted to web programming there. So I took all the web programming classes and just took that right away and applied it. And today we have a business, 10, 12 years after being out of school. That's really interesting, makes a lot of money, employs a lot of people, and some good stuff has happened. So I think that's probably what I have for my intro. So happy to take some questions on here too. Kathy, I think you're going to do the questions, right?
Yes, I am. And I have a whole lot of questions for you.
Great.
Some from me, some from our viewers. So we're kind of curious about a lot of things that you've showed us about. Just now you've shown us the sector performance map. So could you tell us how it works? Does it pull information or data from anything and divide them into grids, or how does it work?
Yeah, let me pull it back up here. Where did that go? Yeah, so this is a visualization tool called D3. It's a JavaScript library that we use to make this. But we have a database that has every company in the S&P 500, and then it's broken down by what stock sector it's in, and then it's broken down kind of by industry. So there's a gal named Rebecca McKeever that works for us. She's a developer that made this. So I kind of spec'd it out and said, it'd be great if it could do this, and then say you want to zoom in on a sector. Say I want to zoom in on technology sector. You can do that and say, okay, here's the technology sector stocks, and then you can break it down by industry, and then by, I guess it's only broken down by industry, but no, actually, then you can click on the industry to zoom in a little bit. Then all of these stock prices come from a company called Bar Chart. They're updated, not quite real time. They are 15 minutes delayed because real time stock prices are, one, hard to do, two, really, really expensive to do. So we've just decided to do delayed prices, but they're current minus 15 minutes. And then D3 is the library that we use to make this pretty.
It's pretty impressive. And it's all like very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier you mentioned something about a tech fellowship at DSU.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about the tech fellowship?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's still around or if the name has changed, and maybe Katie or Pam can tell us about that. But the way it worked when I was a student was there was a competitive application process. You kind of had to apply to the university. They had a set number of slots, and then based off your application, you would get in. And the way it worked out is you worked maybe 12 hours a week, and it paid $17 an hour, which is still pretty good money now, but it was fantastic money then for a student because my freshman year I worked at McDonald's making $7 an hour, and my sophomore year I worked as a tech fellow making $17 an hour. So that was a really good deal. Trying to think who I was all assigned to. There was a Unix lab there in the basement of East Hall when I was a student called DS Unix. So part of my time went to that, and part of my time was for projects for Tom Halverson. And then when I was a senior, they decided I needed to help out the library with a couple of projects. And one of the things I did for them is they have a whole bunch of different databases they have access to, but there wasn't a great way to kind of filter them and say, okay, what's the right database for me to search? So I made a tool to search the databases that they had available and made it really easy to find like which one is the right one to use. So I kind of built a little website with a SQL Server backend on that, and that was a project I did for them. And I don't know, I made a website called dsunews.com because at the time, like whenever anybody wanted to email like every single student, like you could do that, and like it ended up being 20 or 30 emails a day. And it was decided that it needed to be put a stop to that. So I made a website that was on, and then Then it was like a website plus a daily digest of emails. And I think they dropped the website now, it's just the daily digest of emails. And that's a lot better than getting a ton of emails. So it's fun to be able to help out with that, and just a lot of other random projects. I think one of the things I did was I made a little app that you could do like in classroom surveys. So you'd have like you make a poll, and then you get a custom URL. Students could go to that URL and then pick out whatever their answer was. So a professor could, ask a multiple choice or a short answer question and see the results right away. This was when Ajax was first technology, so it was pretty novel back then. Right now, now it's pretty trivial to make that, but then it was pretty cool. So it was a good time. I learned a lot, made some good money, got some good experience.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that, Matt. So we do have a tech fellow still that it changes a little bit, and it may look different for the students that are there now, but it is absolutely opportunity that you look for. So at that time, Matt looked for the opportunity and took advantage of it and went for it. And DSU has a lot of those different types of opportunities that a student should look for and ask questions and see what it looks like, and then find their niche and be able, and not even their niche, maybe it's a new challenge for you, and take advantage of those challenges and those opportunities. But yes, we do have them.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point Pam makes, because there are a lot of good opportunities for students, and most people like completely blow off the emails or ignore them or just don't take advantage of them. And to get ahead and get the job that you want versus the job that's offered to you is, taking advantage of some of those opportunities is what makes the difference.
I like that. That's a wonderful advice, actually. So we have another question. How did you get interested in coding?
Good question. So in my, so when I was like 7, my mom was a school librarian, and they were IBM 286s that they had at the school, and teachers could bring them home for the summer. So that was kind of fun to have a 286 at home before the internet, before any of that stuff, to mess with at home. And it had QBasic on it. So the library had a QBasic book, and I thought, okay, I could do some really basic stuff with this. And I did some really basic stuff with this, and that's about it. And I kind of forgot about programming for a while. And then our high school had Visual Basic classes. So I took Visual Basic 1 and 2 in high school, and I made like some really basic apps like a roulette wheel and a hangman game, and these are all Windows apps. But did that, and then in college, I took Computer Science 1, Computer Science 2, that whole set of classes, and it's just I really like to be able to automate stuff and make processes simpler, and programming is kind of the tool to do that, and it's just something that came naturally and I really enjoy doing.
I have a follow-up to that question. So many of our audiences are usually students in high school and middle school. So what advice would you give them? So if they're interested in coding, like how would you advise them to start, or where would you advise that they start?
Yeah, and that's not something I have a great answer to today, because I think that the tools have gotten like way better than when I was a student. I know there are a lot of different learn to programming things for all age levels, kind of depending on where you're at. I kind of feel like the younger you are, the easier it is to learn programming. Like at my age, it's harder to pick up new languages and stuff like that, because you're so set in your ways. But when you're in high school, 1, you have a lot of free time. 2, like there are so many great tools out there now to learn, what is a variable, what is a loop, what is a function, what is a class. And, you can start with some of the, the code school things that are online, and, pick out a programming language after that, and, try to find a problem in the real world that you might be able to solve with code, and, try to solve it with code. And, once you kind of make code actually do something useful in your life, you kind of get hooked on it and keep wanting to do it, and, expand your skills from there. But I think a lot of high schools do have programming classes now. So if they are available, certainly take advantage of them. I mean, I think a lot of people dismiss coding unnecessarily because they think it's maybe too hard, or, don't want to do it. But, if you want to make sure you have a job for the next 50 years, learn to code, because there are just not enough people that exist that know how to write code compared to the number of jobs that there are. So if you want to future-proof your skill set and have a skill set that's going to be valuable to a company, forever, that won't go out of style, programming is one of those opportunities.
I certainly belong in the category that cannot code. I'm awful at it. I tried so hard, but I never really quite got the hang of it, and so I moved on. So, but that's true. You just keep practicing, I guess. So, with MarketBeat, why did you choose finance and technology?
Yeah, I think it was the intersection of an opportunity and a couple of skills that I had. So, there's not a lot of static content on MarketBeat. Everything is powered by a database somewhere, and being able to marry that ability to code with something that could be continually improved over time, and there's also a good business opportunity there. It was really the nexus of, here is something that I've learned how to market. There's a lot of growth opportunity there, and it matches with my skill set. Really kind of made it the perfect thing to do. And I'm not one that spent a lot of time researching stocks and investments prior to starting the company, but it was a big opportunity, and I saw that, and I said, well, I can get excited about this, and there's a huge opportunity here. So I guess I'm going to learn investing and build the business around this opportunity that exists.
Awesome. So a follow-up on that. What advice would you give to middle school and high school students who are interested in starting their own business?
Yeah. There are certainly some students that start businesses young, usually with the help of parents. That's certainly the exception rather than the rule. I think the best thing that young people can do to be successful in business later in life is to learn sales and learn to be able to go out and try to sell something, because you will face a lot of rejection. And once you kind of get past that, you kind of become fearless in terms of asking for people for business relationships and sales. And if you can find a place where you have to go door to door and sell something, that's a real learning experience, and makes you unafraid to ask for people to be your customer in the future. So try to find an opportunity where it's not you're working at a grocery store or restaurant, where it's you just do what you're told and you're not responsible for any business results. But if you can put yourself in a situation where you have to create results, that is the kind of experience that you want, that will stick with you into your career.
Thank you for that awesome advice. Yeah. With regard to MarketBeat, how did you build your team?
Yeah, so we have 8 employees right now. We'll hire a 9th pretty soon. And we hire really slowly. I've had MarketBeat really as a standalone business for about 9 years. So we average about 1 person a year, and it's really, I try to automate everything I can, so we need as few employees as possible. But at some point, you find kind of a weak spot that just needs to be addressed by a person. So I didn't hire my first employee till 2013, and that was a customer service person, because I was literally responding to 50 emails a day myself for MarketBeat. I thought, okay, somebody else can do this. I found a gal to hire to be the customer support person. She's still with me. She's worked for MarketBeat for 7 years now. And second employee was a front-end web developer. My skills are primarily back-end. I'm not a design guy. I'm not a CSS, wizard. I can do it, but it's not my strength. So I thought, okay, that's the next weak spot. The third weak spot was I needed somebody to manage all of the writers on my website. So I found an editorial manager to kind of work with the freelance writers that write on MarketBeat. And the question is always like, what is the weak spot that we need to address? And then who is the person in my universe that I know that I can hire? Like, we've never posted a job posting anywhere. It's because whenever we have a job posting, we always ask our team and people we know, like, who do you think would be good for this, that might want a better opportunity than they have now? And MarketBeat it's a pretty sweet company to work for because it pays really good, benefits are really good. You can work from home. I don't think I'm a pain in the butt to work for. So there, we've had 0 turnover in the lifetime of the company, and I think that's a testament to what kind of company it is to work for. And but yeah, I mean, it's always about what is the weak spot right now, and how can we address that with the next hire. And it's been 14 months since our last hire, but it is probably time for the next one. So we are gonna start looking for somebody pretty soon to be a customer support person, and maybe some other responsibilities we can marry with that. We have 2 people on our support team now, and we need a third because we're responding to over 100 emails a day right now, and plus all of the junk ones we get that we just need to like click close on. There's probably like another 300 of those of just spam that we get. So it is a challenge we need to solve again.
All our participants listening, they are most likely going to hire. MarketBeat is most likely going to hire. So keep that in mind. What programming language is MarketBeat built on?
Sure. So all of our stuff is a code base that's about 10 years old. So it's built on ASP.NET 4.7 web forms now. And we use SQL Server 20, whatever the newest one is. I don't know. We just upgraded it. And then I think we use Bootstrap on the front end for kind of a JavaScript CSS kind of framework. And it's all on a bare metal server with a company called Liquid Web. I think there's 2 servers that power MarketBeat, and we have another 2 servers that power some WordPress sites that we own. So our hosting bill is a couple grand a month, and then we use SendGrid for email deliverability. That bill is I think that's up to about 10 grand a month, just because we send so many emails now. But they've got a really good API for sending email, and they're able to handle the 100 million emails we send a month now. I mean, the thing about investing is like information that's an hour old is kind of useless. So you have to send out 2, 3, 4 newsletters a day to keep people up to date, and that creates a lot of email.
The final question we have, knowing what you know now, would you change anything in your career?
Yeah, that's always a difficult question. In retrospect, I would have started my business right away, not gotten a full-time job, and went for it. But that's a statement that's made with hindsight in mind. If I knew it was going to be the successful business that it was, I would make that decision a lot sooner to go full-time with it. But for the first couple of years, MarketBeat had a great first kind of 18 months, and then growth stalled out for like 2 years. I thought, okay, is this something I'm going to be able to keep going? And at the time, I didn't know. But in the last year, my day job, it's really started to pick up. And I thought, okay, I think I can make a go of this. And if not, I guess I can go get a job. But I've always been one to seek opportunities, say yes to opportunities. And I don't feel like there's an opportunity that I sat on that I missed out on. So, I mean, my encouragement to students is always, read what opportunities show up in your university inbox, and, say, is this right for me, to every single one of them, and say, I've got 4 years as a student, probably, how can I make the best use of that time, in the classroom, through extracurriculars, with job experience. And you're never going to have more free time than you do in college. And that's reality, because then you get married and you have kids and you have other responsibilities that show up, and you get by a house and you have a lawn to mow and stuff like that. And, your time just becomes less and less and less. So as you have that free time, make the best use of it and see what you can do with your college career.
Thank you for answering all our questions. I believe Katie has something.
Yes, so great advice there. I love that. There is definitely a lot of free time in college, and it goes away quickly when you finish. Now we do have a poll that we're going to launch here, so everybody should be seeing it pop up on your screens. And if you can answer that for us, that would be great. We also want to invite you back to next week's CybHER Conversation with Buzz Hillstead from SBS Cybersecurity. He is the Senior Vice President and does incident response there. So he'll have some great advice, I'm sure, and experience in how you would respond to attacks on businesses and organizations. So we're looking forward to have him. The rest of our July CybHER Conversation schedule is posted on our website. You can register for any of those, and we will soon be posting our August schedule as well. So be on the lookout for that. You can continue to follow us on social media. And for those who are watching this recorded from our YouTube channel, we thank you for joining us there, and we hope that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.